In the midst of a metropolis that never sleeps, now sits a place of peace. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has a temple in Midtown Manhattan.
We're here for a great purpose. We're here to dedicate the house of the Lord.
For church members who love the beauty and energy of this city, they can now look forward to quiet contemplation.
It's going to be such a special temple that we can reach by subway.
It's stunning to New York City. It's been around for so long, and now finally a Mormon temple is going to be right in the middle of it.
The temple will be a place where I'll be able to go and feel peace, and I'll have a refuge from the city.
For those with roots here, it was a time to join in the joy of accomplishment, the answer to prayers.
One thing I know is that as long as we have Gordon B. Hinckley, anything is possible.
And was. As thousands of young people took to the stage at Radio City Music Hall for a Jubilee performance, they celebrated before the day of dedication. As the New York media called it, the hottest ticket in town, tens of thousands toured the interior in a month-long open house. Then a curiosity, now a sacred sanctuary, and to many, a miracle. The story of a temple in Manhattan. The scene is Midtown Manhattan, familiar to millions the world over. Right there in the center of all the hustle and bustle of one of the world's great cities sits a rather modest-looking building. The six-story high-rise has, for decades, housed chapels and offices for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Everyone assumed it would continue as that. Church leaders told members they had for 6 years been considering building a temple outside the city. That was until September 11, 2001. More than 40,000 Latter-day Saints live and work in and around New York City. They too felt the shock and horror of the attacks on the World Trade Center. That site is now under construction. Eventually, a new building will rise out of the ashes and stand as a memorial to those who died. Some Latter-day Saints experienced doubt after the nation's greatest tragedy. Some considered leaving. Others wondered if their home would ever feel safe again.
After the September 11th tragedy, all of us questioned, what is the future for us in New York? Having a temple here was really a great confirmation of the church's commitment to New York City and to the members here. It's really wonderful.
1 month after September 11th, the Manhattan stake president told the young people in 3 singles wards that they were in this city for a reason and that they must pray for a temple there.
I thought after September 11th that the church here in New York City was going to dry up and blow away. I was literally expecting for the proverbial other shoe to drop, that wards would close, that people would move away from the city. I'm not 100% sure that there is a correlation between September 11th and the growth of the church here in New York City, but it's almost as if after September 11th, things have only gotten better.
President Gordon B. Hinckley held a meeting with New York City church members and described to them how the change came about with what he called divine inspiration. He read from his journal entry, March 23, 2002.
We were taken to the church property in Harrison. We have land there, which we bought as a site for a temple. For 6 years, we've been trying to get permission to build a temple, but thus far have failed in our attempts. The neighbors simply do not want us. We then went to our Lincoln Center property. I went all through this very carefully with the thought that the upper portion might be converted to a beautiful and serviceable temple, and I am inclined to think that we could get a permit to do this. I prayed about this, and I feel enthusiastic.
And by the summer of 2003, construction had begun. Most noticeable to passers-by was the exterior plywood on the ground floor. It would give way to the temple's new entrance. Church members, many of them students, were often there for cleanup duty. They saw it as a new opportunity for church service.
It'll revolutionize our ability to go to the temple.
Whereas I could go once a month, now we can go whenever we want. We can go early morning before work, late evening after work.
To give you some idea of how centrally located this new temple is, this is a view from Broadway, one of the most famous streets in the world. On an adjacent corner is the church building. On this Sunday morning in May, church members are gathering for weekly meetings, but they are also anticipating the upcoming month-long open house of their new temple in the same building.
To be able to have it right here where we can just
come whenever we want.
Ride the subway down and be able to go to the temple.
Through these doors are the elevators, which lead upstairs to the chapels. Over here, another set of doors, very large, very ornate. They lead to the temple. Thousands of church members use the building for weekly worship services. In those 3 congregations of single adults, students, interns, young professionals, 75 were chosen as volunteer workers for the new temple.
It's definitely something special that is just a testimony, I think, just to the time and growth of the individual and the community. But I'm honored. It's going to be a great pleasure, and it's something that it's something that's sacred.
To be in the temple once a week and just go there after a long day work, after a long week, and be able to just serve and to feel the peace that's here that's really hard to find at other places in the city.
Before the official public tours, even before the VIP open house, Latter-day Saints had a special day for neighbor visits. Church members welcomed those who lived nearby.
I never noticed that this was going on, and I thought that's a very good opportunity to see how the Mormons work.
The temple stands across the street from the famed Lincoln Center and the prestigious Juilliard School of Music.
Juilliard's really busy, so I was really sidetracked, but then they posted a letter in the school, and I was like, oh, all right, I'm free on Sunday, so that's how I came.
Rarely does an open house for a place of worship attract national attention. This is the spread in USA Today's April 27, 2004 issue, with the headline, "Mormons Throw Open Temple Doors." The article described the church as a unique, often misunderstood religion. Other papers called it the Off-Broadway Tour, saying this was one of the hottest tickets in town. VIP tours started with the media. Invitations went out to Northeast television, radio, and newspapers.
For reporters, there's nothing more enticing than a closed door. And these doors are open at the moment, but they will be closed, and it's kind and generous of them to give us a little glimpse in advance of what will be going on, but that I think we're all sort of curious.
They saw rooms with hand-painted murals, scenes of rustic upstate New York, the bride's dressing room modeled after a Victorian-era sitting room, the serene celestial room furnished with rich decor, the long hall with beautifully crafted wood appointments, stained glass windows with a tree of life motif, looking like the kind found in turn of the 20th century old New York mansions.
The way that the architecture and the faith seem to work together to create a kind of an atmosphere, I wasn't aware of that before I came.
A limousine in Midtown Manhattan is not an unusual sight, but one in front of a Latter-day Saint temple is. Out stepped Grammy Award winner Gladys Knight and her family, warmly greeted on the first day of tours.
I used to go to church here, and I didn't know they were changing to the temple. And this is simply amazing. I used to walk down here from the hotel and just have great services down here.
As more than 50,000 people walked through, some curious, others familiar with temples, they expressed themselves respectfully.
I don't intend to convert. No one asked me to, but it's just a wonderful opportunity to learn more.
I have no way to express myself, how I feel inside. It's like I'm shaking.
As the open house period came to a close, there was still amazement from both longtime New York City church members and their leaders.
This is a miracle. And some people mentioned, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have a temple? And I thought that was the most distant, impossible concept. And to think that a temple would be built and the investment made is remarkable.
To perform on the fabled stage of Radio City Music Hall, not just for family and friends, but for our beloved prophet, Gordon B. Hinckley.
Thousands of Latter-day Saints greeted President Hinckley with a New York City-style standing ovation. In an historic place, it was an historic event, with 2,400 young people taking the stage in a special Jubilee production, the largest cast to ever fill this music hall. You were on stage at Radio City Music Hall.
Yeah, that's a wow. Like, stars are on that, you know.
Tell me what it was like to be in this show.
It was amazing.
It took so many months, and we were so excited to be able to perform it and show off. And with the prophet here, that is like, I've never been in the presence of the prophet before, so it was so exciting for all of us.
Like, being in the show is like a once in a lifetime opportunity, because you get to perform for the prophet and come to New York and do things that you probably think that won't ever happen again.
With music and dance, they paid tribute to the pioneers who traveled west, some from New York City. They celebrated the rich cultural diversity found throughout the area. And because they performed so close to the Great White Way, the theaters on Broadway, they also paid tribute to those memorable musicals.
I think the show was great because they tried hard and they practiced hard and they took lots of time and they volunteered to do it.
I'm very happy to be a member of this church. It's my 3rd year as a member, and I'm just happy to be here. I was sitting a few rows from the prophet, and it's such a beautiful event.
Watching him, like just his face, I could be telling it to my family and my family's family and children's children and for generations.
To church leaders who grew up in the New York City area, this night was nothing short of amazing.
In my wildest dream, that the time would come when the whole theater would be filled with members of the church, and performance of thousands of youngsters is beyond my comprehension.
And following the Jubilee by thousands of young Latter-day Saints came a message from their prophet, President Gordon B. Hinckley.
What you've done tonight, my young friends here in the music hall, has been a wonderfully significant thing. You can be serious and you must be serious. You can study the scriptures and you must study the scriptures. You can go to Seminary Institute, you must go to Seminary Institute. But you can have a little fun along with it. And what a tremendous job you've done tonight.
He told them this meeting brought back fond memories of a previous trip with Sister Hinckley.
And I remember she stood up here at this pulpit. She was a small woman, and she sort of kicked up her heel at the back and said, who would ever have dreamed that a little girl from Nephi, Utah would ever dance on the stage of Radio City Music Hall? Well, I'll do a little dance for her tonight. I've seen you dance. You are a tremendous generation. How fortunate you ought to feel that you are a part of this great season in the history of the world. No generation that ever lived has been so richly blessed as has this generation. God has poured out knowledge and light and understanding in this time of the world's history, unequaled in any other season of the earth. I don't know why you and I were spared to come forth at this time, but somehow in the great providence of the Lord, it has come to pass.
Their day of celebration was a prelude to the temple dedication, but this moment would remain unforgettable, not only for the joy of performing together, but also because the man they revere as prophet had seen and recognized their hard work and blessed their future endeavors.
We have a tremendous responsibility. I don't hesitate to say that. So much depends on us. If not me, who? If not now, when? It is our job, here and now, to do our best. You write it down. You keep it in your journals. You keep it before you. This statement, I will make a difference because of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I will make a difference because of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I believe that the inspiration of the Lord lies behind what has happened here.
To show thy love by morning light, and talk of all thy truths at night.
Just as the power of the voices says nothing about the size of the choir, so too the significance of a temple of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in New York City says nothing about the size of the building. President Hinckley led the traditional sealing of the cornerstone, this one on an inside wall because the building is both a meeting house and a temple. Then he asked some area children to join him.
President Hinckley called me up to help with the cornerstone. We got to see the prophet, and we got to help put mortar in to hold the cornerstone in.
The day before, church members filled the cornerstone box with programs, photographs, newspaper articles, and a family history chart. Sunday, June 13, 2004. Arriving by subway, bus, and taxi, Latter-day Saints queued in beautiful Midtown Manhattan for the opportunity to participate in 4 dedicatory services. This is their temple. No longer do they have to travel to Boston or Washington, D.C., hours away.
It was really, really great, and I'll keep this in my memory forever and write in my journal.
It was really an amazing experience, and it was really fun because I've seen like the Boston dedication, but I never really thought there would be a temple here.
On this day of dedication, Latter-day Saints have come from the 5 boroughs of New York, Long Island, New Jersey, Connecticut, and some much farther than that.
West Africa, Ghana, we got a temple, and now I'm here to witness New York City temple. It's wonderful.
I'm very happy that our brothers and sisters in New York are also going to have the temple, which is going to transform their life.
The fact that the church has been able to have a presence here now, I think will allow us to get our message across in a much greater way within Manhattan.
Many Utahns with New York City ties also came. None more enthusiastic than Norman Rothman, a Jewish convert. The feeling of being back and seeing the new temple is overwhelming to him.
Just tremendous. This is my town, and it isn't that element of Salt Lake City and the prophet, but this New York, this is where I was born and raised and educated, the son of a New York City cab driver as well.
Former BYU head coach Lavelle Edwards and his wife Patty watched this process start. They spent 18 months in the city as public affairs missionaries for the church. They returned for this special occasion.
I'll never forget the first day after they had totally demolished it, and I went upstairs to look at it, and I thought there's absolutely no way that this could be made into a temple with rooms big enough, but unbelievably.
It's a humbling experience. It's a great blessing to the saints in this area.
As in so many areas of the world, church members here have waited a long time for a temple.
For a long time, I have been here for about 16 years. I live here in New York, so we're waiting, but it's worth it.
Inside the temple, they will sit in a room with a mural, scenes of upstate New York, to serve as a reminder of where the church was founded.
There are places that you just feel the spirit and you know they're beautiful, and those places are incorporated into the feeling in our mural upstairs.
This room is also a reminder of the sacred grove, where Joseph Smith says he spoke with God the Father and his Son, Jesus Christ.
The conversation which took place in the grove, in this great state of New York, was as personal and as real as is my conversation with you this night. I bear testimony of that.
And this building in New York City has a connection to another one, the only other Latter-day Saint high-rise temple in the world. It is in Hong Kong, a 6-story multi-purpose house of worship that sits on a 1/4 acre of land just a few miles from the harbor. This temple was also envisioned by President Hinckley.
Well, I don't like to talk about it in circumstances like this, but to me it was inspiration, pure inspiration that came to me, and I drew it out, and I still have the little drawing that I made. It's in my journal of the little drawing that I made, which is essentially the plan which we have for this temple.
8 years later, in another city, on another continent, it is the same.
We're here now in June, and a miracle has occurred, really, and the house of the Lord has been built within the shell of that great building which we have on Broadway in Columbus.
The 119th temple of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints makes a statement of faith and stands as a reminder of prayers and hope born out of a national tragedy. For grateful church members, a miracle in their midst, a sanctuary in the middle of the constant energy of one of the world's great cities, where they say it is possible to find peace and experience spiritual awakenings.